You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and there were a couple Jet stories to get to, which is certainly exciting for me. We know what's going to happen with Malik Hooker's 5th year in the NFL, and there was another NFL signing today, but I want to start with Marcus Maye. Manish Mehta of the Daily News said that the Jets have discussed potential trades involving Maye. Later on, Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk said that it was, quote-unquote, beyond fake news. Look, I really like Marcus Maye. I think Maye is a really underrated player. Yeah, he got hurt his sophomore year, and he didn't have a great rookie year. He had a good rookie year. He got overshadowed by Jamal Adams. But heading into last year, there was this sense of, we really need to see Maye put it all together. Adams and Maye were drafted together. Let's see if these guys can become the best safety duo in the NFL. And I'm not saying they're that, but if we were to rank the best safety duos in the NFL, Maye and Adams would easily be in the top 10. We all know how great Adams is, but Maye had a 74.6 overall grade last year, according to Pro Football Focus. And as someone who watched every Jets game last year, I can tell you that number's pretty accurate. I like Maye a lot. I actually have a shirt of his. Now, he's not a ball hawk. He only had one interception last year. That's not good for a free safety. But I can live with that if you're swatting balls out of the air, if you're providing good coverage, and you're doing everything you need to do. And that's what Maye does. He's not a Leonard Williams where he was picked high and he needs to put up big numbers. No, when you're picked in the second round, you have the luxury of being a guy who doesn't show up a lot on the box score. Especially when you're playing next to Jamal Adams. But I don't think it's a far-fetched notion that the Jets are shopping Maye. It's something that I brought up after the Jets picked Ashton Davis in the 3rd round. Does this mean that the Jets are trading Adams, or does it mean that they're trading Maye? The funny thing about Davis is he can play both safety positions. He has good ball skills, and he's a good tackler. You can make the argument that he could replace either Adams or Maye. Now, I thought it was to replace Jamal Adams. Those trade rumors have been more prevalent, and a free safety is a million times more important than a strong safety. But if it's to replace Maye, depending on the haul, I wouldn't be opposed to it. You know, if someone offers me a 1st-round pick for Marcus Maye, as good as Maye is, I'm doing that deal for a 1st-rounder. You could even talk me into it for a 2nd-rounder. Now, this goes back to why I didn't like the Davis pick, though. now you're, I don't want to say forced to trade either Adams or Maye, because they're not forced to, but it opens up that door when all they had to do was just draft Zach Bourne. As good as I think Zuniga is going to be, I think he's going to be a fine player in this league. Bourne would have been so much better, and the Jets could have added something else with their second, third rounder. Whether it was a better running back, maybe even another wide receiver, a cornerback, whatever. But since they picked Davis, they are now in a position where this really good prospect is going to be pushing for playing time. Ashton Davis is not a scrub. According to ESPN, Davis was the 71st best prospect in the draft. And I had an early third round grade on him too. This is a guy with a ton of talent. And he's not going to be helping anyone sitting on the bench. When you're a third rounder, or a second rounder, or a first rounder, you've got to play. The school of let these guys sit and learn for a little bit, unless you're a quarterback, it doesn't work. And even then, there are some quarterbacks that don't get that luxury. Joe Burrow's not going to get that luxury. Sam Darnold didn't get that luxury. These draft picks are expected to come in and produce immediately. You want to tell me that's unfair? You can certainly make that argument, but it's the world we live in. And there's nothing that we're going to do about it. It's why I wanted Zach Bourne. If the Jets had just taken Bourne and then a cornerback, we wouldn't be having this discussion about Marcus Maye. But instead, the Jets are going to end up trading a good safety, whether it's Adams or Maye, to make room for this guy. You want to tell me that Ashton Davis is a corner? He's not. He's a safety. He played some corner at California. He's much better as a safety. There's going to come a point in time when he's going to be knocking on the door, and Greg Williams and Adam Gase are going to have to make a decision. Do we play this guy? And which safety do we bench? No matter which one you bench, you're going to end up trading him. I mean, that was something that I said the Monday after Davis was picked. It means that one of these guys are going to be traded. Maybe it's not going to happen immediately, but at some point, Jamal Adams or Marcus Maye will be traded. I don't like it. In a perfect world, Ashton Davis is not a Jet. As good as I think he is, I don't like the idea of drafting a player that doesn't fill a position of need when you have other glaring holes, and the Jets had plenty of holes. Joe Douglas created a position battle where there didn't need to be one. Now, if he had some monster offer lined up for Jamal Adams, yes, no problem. And even if he has a monster offer lined up for Marcus Maye, no problem. But as of right now, that pick doesn't look good. All in all, I agree with the notion that Marcus Maye or Jamal Adams will be traded at some point. Whether it's going to happen in the next month or two, or we need to play some games first, that's still up in the air. It's possible that it could happen after the preseason if Davis wows everyone. And it's certainly possible that it could happen mid-season. I don't think it's going to happen soon. The soonest that I could see it happen is after the preseason. And we've got a ways to go before we get to that point. Moving on now to the Jets bringing in Frank Gore. And this one really confuses me. As much as I respect Frank Gore, the guy's had a hell of a career. And he's a future Hall of Famer. He's rushed for over 15,000 yards in his career. That is third most all time behind just Emmitt Smith and Walter Payton. He's a 5-time Pro Bowler. Great player in his prime. But that's the key word there. In his prime. He's lost a step. In the past 4 years, his rushing yards have gone down. His yards per game have gone down. His attempts per game have gone down. His receiving yards have gone down. His receptions per game have gone down. His receiving yards per game have gone down. He's just not the same player. But this can work. And I'm going to tell you how it can work. It can work if Adam Gase said to Frank Gore, we're not going to play you that much. The main reason I want you is because I coached you before. He did coach Gore in Miami his last year there, 2018. And Gore was not terrible that year. He rushed for 722 yards. He started 14 games. He was their leading rusher. If Gase said to Gore, you're not going to play that much, I'm bringing you in mainly as a locker room leader, no problem. That's great. This is a locker room that can blow up. I have said that a million times before. And Frank Gore is really the perfect guy to bring in to calm down a contentious locker room. But if Gore was signed under the pretense of you're going to take playing time away from LaMichael Pirine. Yes, it is Pirine. It is not Perrine. I apologize. It is Pirine. Telling you, everyone needs to be named John Smith. Everyone on Earth needs to be named John Smith. We need to have a tattoo across their forehead so that way it could be, hey, John Smith 28, what's going on? Oh, nothing much, John Smith 47, what's going on with you? Would make my life so much easier. But if Gore is taking playing time away from Pirine, I don't like that. Pirine is a guy who can contribute right away. Was really good last year for Florida. ESPN had him as the 72nd best prospect in this draft. I had a mid-third round grade on him. I really liked him. I loved the pick. I defended the pick. But if he's not going to play, what's the point? I don't care that you don't like Le'Veon Bell. That's fine. There's a lot not to like there. You give the guy a bunch of money and he does nothing. So you bring in a young running back who is either going to motivate Bell to be the player that he was in Pittsburgh or to replace him. But if you're going to end up replacing Le'Veon Bell with Frank Gore, I don't like that. This signing all depends on the depth chart. If the depth chart is Bell, Pirine, Gore, I have no problem with that. If the depth chart is Bell, Gore, Pirine, we have an issue there. Although I will say this, if Bell is out of the picture for whatever reason, whether he's traded, whether he's hurt, whatever, I don't mind the idea of a 1A, 1B setup with Gore and Pirine. I don't even care who you have as the 1A in that setup. In a perfect world, it would beat Pirine, but if you don't want to put that much on his plate immediately, fine, give it to Gore. Don't go crazy about this signing, Jets fans, until you see the depth chart. You have to wait and see how this is all gonna unfold. Moving on now to Malik Hooker, and we finally know what's gonna happen with him. He is gonna end up being a free agent next year. I don't like the decision, but, we did hear before the draft that there were trade rumors around him. That was reported by Michael Lombardi. I did talk about it at the time. I didn't understand it at the time, and I still don't understand it. I like Malik Hooker. I think Hooker's a really good safety. But the Colts drafted Julian Blackmon in the 3rd round. I liked Blackmon coming out of Utah. I thought it was a little bit of a reach in the 3rd round to take him. I had him as a 5th round prospect. But I'm not going to kill Blackmon too much. The writing was on the wall when it came to Malik Hooker. If I was a betting man, I would have bet on Hooker having his 5th-year option declined. Now, I don't like the decision, but for whatever reason, Chris Ballard is pretty content to move on from him. We heard that before the draft, and it's evidenced by him having his 5th-year option declined. I'm not saying that I agree with that decision. I like Hooker. I like Hooker a lot. If you're a team in need of a safety, you can do a lot worse than Malik Hooker. And I don't even mind the idea of Hooker and Blackmon playing together. I don't think Blackmon's that bad at run support. You can put Blackmon at strong safety. I think that could work. But I think it was pretty apparent that Hooker was going to get his option declined. I think he's going to land on his feet. He is a really good player. Last year, according to Pro Football Focus, he had a 69.5 overall grade. He's never had a grade worse than 65.3, and that was his rookie year. I think Hooker's going to get a pretty good payday in a little over 10 months. Moving on now to the Jaguars signing Aaron Lynch. And look, I understand why they're bringing him in. The Jaguars needed a lot of help defensively heading into this offseason. They addressed some of their holes in the draft. Obviously, with their 1st round pick, they added C.J. Henderson and Caleb Chason later. But they certainly could have stood to add more defensive players. Aaron Lynch had a terrible season last year for the Bears. According to Pro Football Focus last year, he had a 36 overall grade. The worst defensive player on the Bears. And this is a guy who's been ravaged by injuries and ravaged by suspensions recently. But he does have talent. In 2018, he had a 72.8 overall grade for the Bears. Year before that, 2017 for the Niners, 68.1 overall grade. I don't mind the Jaguars bringing him in on a veteran's minimum contract. And they just say to him, you're not going to play that much. You're only going to play about 15 or so snaps a game. And let's see if you still have something left in the tank. It's not a terrible decision by the Jaguars to sign him. There were better players available, though. You just get the sense that Lynch isn't long for this league. Alright, that's gonna do it for today. I'm really sorry, guys. I just can't do any more today. I have a sore throat. I have a stomach ache. I think it's just one of those bugs that you get. No, it is not the coronavirus. Those are not the symptoms of the coronavirus. So, here's hoping I'll be back tomorrow with a full show. Regardless of what happens, to make it up to you, I promise that I'm going to give you the trifecta tomorrow. You have my word. I also have an interview lined up for tomorrow. Pat Jordan. He wrote a book about his relationship with Tom Seaver. That's going to be a lot of fun. So, look, again, I'm really sorry, but I have to end the show here. Until tomorrow, I am Jacob Valk saying that I think my ex-girlfriend has a voodoo doll working against me. That's why I'm sick.